Shalom. In this week's Parashat Matot and Masei, we have a lengthy description, Parashat Matot, of the war, the battle against Midyan. Nikom nikmat bnei Yisrael me'eta Midyanim. Hashem tells bnei Yisrael to go to battle against Midyan. We'll take a look at a certain element of that battle, see maybe it has some relevance to our situation today. Hashem tells Moshe to gather a sort of symbolic army, Elef Lamateh, just 1,000 soldiers from each shevet, and presumably taken from each shevet is to make it clear that it's, while a small army, Hashem is going to be the one bringing the victory, that it needs to be all the nation fighting together, right? A symbolic representation of the entire Am, and the Torah really describes the battle itself very briefly, but it's clear that it's a tremendous victory, and like I said, it describes the battle itself very much in brief, very briefly, very quickly. And what we have in great detail is, and then there's a follow-up of a certain issue they sort of need to follow up on, which we're not going to go into. What we have great detail of is what we're going to call the spoils. First, we have a description of the metal, what they needed to do to kasher, of what the kashering and the tevila and the laws, the halachot of incorporating the different metals. Vayomer Elazar Kohen, mechukata Torah, the laws of incorporating the metals, of how that was meant to be done, which is also not going to be our focus today. A very worthy topic. But what seems to take the major focus, close to 40 psukim, is the next part of the spoils, the livestock, the animals, as well as the female captives that they took, thousands upon thousands of cattle, of sheep and cattle and donkeys, as well as many what will now become slaves, women that were taken captive. And there's this tremendously long description of how that was to be divided up, as well as at the end, a description of what to be done with some of the precious metals, with the gold. And maybe we'll get to that at the end as well. But I wanted to focus on is what the Torah seems to devote the most attention to in this parasha, is the division of this Malkoach Hashvi, of this in great detail, what you were supposed to do with the bakar, the chamorim, the tzon. How are you to divide up all of these spoils? Part of it was supposed to go to the Levim, but it was to divide it up in two parts. And how is this to work? It has to be v'chatzitat hamalkoach ben tovsei milchama yotzim latzava uven kol ha'ida. First, you divide it in half between the 12,000 who've gone out to battle and the remainder of the people. And the Sforno writes, why is that? Mipnei shayta milchemet nekama al ma shenasa neged kulam, ratzah shitkaim bekulam v'achalta et shlal oivecha. He says there's apparently when the circumstances are correct, there can be a certain blessing in the shlal oivecha, in taking in the spoils of the enemy. So therefore, he wanted in this successful vengeance against the enemy, he wanted this shalal, these spoils, to be brought in to the entire nation. But I want to focus on the first part of the sentence. Because they were avenging the wrong that was done against the entire nation. And as we mentioned a moment ago, because the army itself was also an army that was representing the entire nation, therefore they wanted to also divide it up, not just among the representatives of the nation, but among the entire nation. And of course, when you divide up evenly between 12,000 on one hand and 600,000 on the other hand, of course, not every individual of the 600,000 is going to get an equal share that the other 12,000 get. But symbolically, there was this sense that what we call in Hebrew, now in modern Hebrew we say the chazit and the oref, those who were at the front lines and those who remained behind, that they were all representing a single unit, that everyone was fighting the battle together, those who were, we'll call them the representatives of the people, and those who stayed behind but were supporting at the back lines, so to speak, of the nation, that they were all really fighting the battle together. And there's this sense, and then the Torah does it in great detail, each one needed to give a portion for the Leviim. The battle, those who fought the battle, give only 1 part out of 500. Those who were, because they were the ones who really sort of deserved what they got. Those who were being gifted at the back lines, they give 1 out of 50. They give 10 times as much, because after all, they're sort of getting it as more of a gift. Again, there's a sense that you need of who was sort of more entitled to it, who's sort of getting it more as a gift. But nonetheless, the Torah goes out of its way, and Hashem himself goes out of his way to say, I want everyone to know that they have a share in the spoils of the victory, because the victory is the victory of the entire Am Yisrael, because all of Am Yisrael was in this together. And again, this sense that the way Am Yisrael is victorious in Milchemet Midyan, and hopefully this is the model for future victory of Am Yisrael, and it has to be, again, it can't be, even those who are at the back line, so to speak, can't be, to use the phrase from the following parsha, it can't be, it can't be that some are fighting and others choose to exempt themselves, who leave themselves out of the war intentionally and say, it's not for me, I'm not part of Am Yisrael. You have to be, even if you're not at the front line, you have to be taking part in the spirit of the war. I'm not saying that you don't have to be willing and interested in supporting, but even if you're not at the front line, those of us who are at the back line, so to speak, some of us have not been at the chazit, not been at the front line, there's this sense that all of Am Yisrael, it's a milchemet nekama al mashen asai neged kulam, and therefore the shalal is in some sense, there's a greater sense for those who are at the chazit, there's a greater reward because there was greater risk and greater participation for those who were at the front line. But Am Yisrael together fights the war. Bezrat Hashem, bayamim ahem bazman hazeh, Am Yisrael together is victorious, and bayamim ahem bazman hazeh, Am Yisrael together as a nation can share in the spoils and the victory and in its rewards. Shabbat Shalom, B'Sarot Tovon.